Hello, everyone, and welcome. We'll just wait a few more minutes. So a little bit earlier, I had a bit of technical faux pas. Yeah, both. But we're here now. How's music going? Not too bad. I had that sudden panic, as you do, because we rearranged where I'm my office kind of space in the house is. We had a Japanese exchange student, and we're sort of in that flux period between moving everything back.
Oh,
I suddenly had that panic of like, oh God, what's the state of the space behind me? Look, well, I don't want to be able to see, but
yeah.
not too bad.
Well, I've got a Wellington hotel room today.
Oh,
Yeah.
glamorous. Does they have one of those strange bathrooms where there's no door? You've seen this whole thing about there being no door?
Yeah.
It's being a very modern piece of thinking.
No, this is a very traditional,
Right.
little unit.
Yeah. We were in a hotel. I used to have something else work-wise last year and was like, oh, yeah, this is weird. There's not really a proper door. I don't like it. Seeing through the bathroom window into the bedroom area.
Mm.
And then a couple of other places, the same sort of thing. And then, yes, I read something about this was a new phenomena in hotel designs, not to have
Oh,
separate doors in the same way that they previously had.
it's interesting concept.
Kind of makes me really, sometimes if you're sharing your hotel room, the bathroom is an important private
Yeah.
you need to retreat to. All right. Okay, gang, we are still waiting on Marissa, so I'm not going to start yet. I hope she will join us. Thank you, those of you who are here. And apologies if you went to the other link and then it told you I had the whole thing had finished and happened. All I can say is I pushed the wrong button. Never learned my lesson. I invite Marissa again. I think so. I had just sent her an email, so I'm hoping she'll get that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here she is.
Ah.
Hi.
Kia ora.
Sorry, Substack noob, and I thought it was going to come through my email, so I was sitting there patiently waiting before I checked my Substack, which I'm new to today.
Wait, no longer we are here. Oh, okay. Yes, well, I already did the technical mistaking today by deleting the Substack before we started and then having to quickly start a new one. And then email going, oh, this is the new address. Because, yes. It's very easy to cancel your Substack that you've organised. Not too easy, as far as I can tell. It should be much more, foolproof than that. But never mind. Thank you to those people who found their way over here, regardless. So we'll just wait 3 more minutes now. So we are 3 more minutes, and we are getting off on time. So yes, anyone needs to urgently get a cup of tea, now is the time to do that. That's mine. I would go find some entertaining Hogan for the Southern dance, but they're probably acting. Going well until I decide to start singing and dancing, and then she pushed another button and something went straight. So.
I don't know. I'm like,
Claire, you're definitely the only one that should be singing and dancing.
Oh, well, I don't know. Oh, well, you're in luck. I'm just we're just gonna do karakia, and I won't make you all do a wata.
Everyone can be thankful for that.
I can do a wata. I will do a wata. Yes. Same love of song and dance to me. And hopefully we will also not suffer from any adverse weather events again, because we've got a lot of rain and wind here. Kia ora. Fair enough. Teachers have a bit to talk about at the moment. I entirely understand. Quite a lot to talk about in the education space, seemingly all the time at the moment. And I appreciate people, especially any of you that are teachers, from taking time out of your non-contact time. So I was saying to you earlier, Fiona, I do not like to use the word holidays. Very wrong. Non-contact time. To be here at 4:30 on a Tuesday. That's kind of above and beyond. All right, we will get started. Tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everyone, ko Coleman toko ingoa. And welcome to this afternoon session where we're going to look at the draft health and physical education curriculum. I'm going to begin with karakia, and then I will explain how things will run and introduce you to my lovely guests. Tu tawa mai I runga, tu tawa mai I raro, tu tawa mai I roto, tu tawa mai I waho, kia tau e te mori tu te mori ora ki te katoa. Hamie huie tā kie. All right. Okay, so welcome everybody. For those of you who have not been to one of these webinars before, I'll just outline how it will roll, and then I will introduce my lovely expert guests. Essentially, the idea with these is that they are a sort of 30-minute snackable sized webinar where you're not going to get into the weeds particularly. It's not a big deep dive into a learning area, into one of the curriculum documents, but it is a sort of high level look at some of the big things that stick out for us, and giving some pointers on where to go in terms of the consultation period. As I'm sure you are aware, the consultation period concludes on the 24th of April, which is just 10 short days away, but plenty of time still to complete the form. And so the way this will run is we're going to spend about 20 minutes looking through some of those high-level issues in relation to the health and PE curriculum draft. And then in the last 10 minutes or so, I'll just take you through the resource that's available and the links to show you how to get to the draft material and to do the consultation and sort of talk about that process a little bit as well. I should say that the materials that I'm going to share with you on the screen have been generated in collaboration with experts in the sector. So they are not just Claire's random thoughts about the health and PE curriculum, and they're going to be ably supported today by my guests. So perhaps if I will share my screen as well, but maybe in a moment. But maybe if we start with you, Fiona, if you could just introduce yourself to everyone this afternoon and maybe give us your high-level thinkings around the draft curriculum, and then hand over to Marissa, and then we'll get to I'll share screens and we'll go through the material from there.
Yeah. Kia ora, Claire. Kia ora koutou, everyone. Ko Fiona McDonald toko ingoa, no Otatai Ho. I'm the Chief Executive for Education Outdoors New Zealand. So we support both EOTC and outdoor education. So we've been heavily involved in the outdoor education part of this learning area alongside PENS. And for us, there's a little positive that outdoor education does appear in there as two words and have its own little row, but it's really missing in action from the purpose statement, the structure and the introduction to the learning area. And there's lots of statements in the draft that just don't represent the distinct aspects of outdoor education at all. So we're concerned about that and have put together some material to support people sharing their thoughts around outdoor education.
Sure, thank you, Fiona. Marissa.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui ki koutou katoa, ko mangarei toku manga, ko tamaki toku awa, Ko Marisa Makai toko ingoa. I am the primary and intermediate curriculum advisor for Physical Education New Zealand. So have been in the role with PENS for 5 years, and the last, let's say 9 months have been a particularly interesting time to be involved in curriculum and development. So PENS has had a very open door policy in terms of being a part of the development of the curriculum. However, that has been challenging over that period of time. I think people have thought that PENS has been a lot more involved with the production and facilitation of the curriculum than we had been. And so we too share a number of concerns around what has been developed and what is currently out as draft. Where we stand, it's really imperative for our colleagues within the PE community that they are providing quality physical education experiences for their ākonga. And we know that looks like an inclusive program that is developed on quality pedagogy and quality teaching and learning outcomes, which we feel are very much in a challenge space based on what is currently draft. Probably one of the biggest concerns in that space are the areas that are lacking and that are no longer considered key parts of that, including facets such as hauora, the socio-ecological perspective, the consideration of inclusive education and what that looks like. And particularly for us in physical education, the narrowing of what our curriculum means. And so it's really been pinpointed to the learning in movement and being able to execute or not execute particular skills that are very much connected to particular sport or gaming codes. And so we know that narrows and simplifies our curriculum, and that's not what we're here for. And we are advocating for that space to be accessible for all of our learners and for there to be value in those outcomes alongside our colleagues and at Aeons. So, challenging time.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, we're going to go. I will now share my screen. And hopefully what you can see in here is the guide materials. This will go up on the website that I have done. It will also go under the webinar on the AEC Substack as well. But this is kind of the overarching guide that talks about what's in the consultation, what the consultation is looking for. And this has some extra materials down here for you to access in terms of consultation. So these block pink places are buttons. And I will come back to this and kind of talk this through at the end. But we're going to go now to look at those high-level issues that we want to walk you through. And again, this is related to how the questions are asked in the consultation document. So this maps really nicely across. You'll see here, this has got, you can download this particular web page here as a PDF as well, if you like to have a tangible thing to touch and to hold. Okay, so let's look at what's in the draft curriculum. So starting at the purpose statement, and we've already mentioned that, Marissa, that kind of narrowing and representation about what health and physical education can be. And I just thought if you could talk a little bit more, one of those key issues that we've got listed there is around this idea of physical education as learning occurring in, through, and about movement. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is a big philosophical perspective of our New Zealand curriculum and has been around and a key part of our curriculum since the 1999 document. And it encapsulates the understanding that movement goes far and beyond being able just to simply execute a simple skill to be able to participate in a code, which really narrows the learning of movement down to the individual. And this philosophical understanding from Arnold is the idea that we can learn in movement, so we can learn the skills and abilities to be able to participate in movement. but that it also recognises the value of learning through movement, that actually we can play the games to learn some bigger, wider concepts like problem solving or communication or working with others or all those kinds of things. So we can learn that by moving and playing games and activities with bigger ideas to develop. And it also considers the role around learning about movement. So understanding that communities and cultures access and respect movement in their own unique ways, that the anatomy and the biophysical side of things all play a part to that. And so looking at movement as a whole concept across a range of ways, and our concerns for that at the moment is that it has been narrowed into simply a learning in movement. And even within that in movement, it's particularly narrow about whether our students can or cannot physically perform chosen skills that are attached to particular contexts that have been identified and given examples of within the curriculum. So they are saying at year 2, students should be able to perform a forward roll. And we just know that that is not going to be accessible for all of our school communities to do, let alone for all of our learners to do. So concerns around what that looks like and how narrow that makes the learning for our students within that.
Thank you, Marissa. What about Fiona? We were talking before, there was a mention around haora, and again, I guess that ties in slightly to that notion of narrowing it down to different things.
Yeah, and it's been such a bedrock for the learning area since 2007, and if not before that, it really feels that removing it has just taken that away and taken all those links away. And the learning area could be anywhere in any country now rather than being grounded here. And I think for outdoor education, the same in, through and about movement, we talk about in, through and about the natural environment, and Haora just links into that really nicely as well. The understanding of the natural environment and the weather and the history of the place and ecosystems, and then the connection to and care for nature and well-being and self, and how those things are all related to being outside and working with others, of course, as well. And horror is just that kind of bedrock concept that can pull all of those things together. So without it, it feels like we could be anywhere in the world rather than being grounded here.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, coming to the structuring of the learning areas. The next question in the consultation asks you about the structure. So the 4 key points that were identified were this kind of, as you've sort of talked to it, it's really this prioritizing it, engaging in particular sport codes or particular activities, and not more around those foundational concepts and things that can transfer across. The lack of the lack of knowledge progression across things, so making concepts visible and cumulative and how things are evolving through. The practical application, so some of the structures not really ensuring that practical applied nature of your learning area, and then this kind of distinction around the space of where outdoor education is positioned. Fiona, do you want to talk a bit more about that? Because I know that was something you highlighted in the beginning.
Yeah. And in the whole introduction of the draft structure and the kind of explanation of what is happening at each year level, outdoor education is really missing there, beyond just a mention as outdoor activities or experiences. So completely missing the kind of key concepts and aspects of outdoor education. And for PE, as Marissa said, just reducing it really down to sport and performance. So, we really want to see outdoor education explained in this particular area of the outline structure, as well as in the different introduction pieces, rather than just subsumed in this performance aspect.
Yeah, because I guess can you just unpack a little bit for me what it means in terms of that blurring of the idea it will be absorbed by other things or kind of undercooked?
Well, at the moment in the introduction and structure, it really is invisible within PE, and we'd like to see it as explicit and the differences in the disciplines acknowledged in this top area of the curriculum, as well as just having the single line down under PE, that it is the differences are explained up in the structure and the introduction part.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. I'm moving into that introduction that you've already signalled. But could you talk a little bit about the role of play and embodied exploration and how that's missing from the current draft?
Yeah, so like I spoke to earlier, probably most of our concerns come from what is missing within there, and what we know of our youngest learners. So our year 0, 1, 2, 5, 6-year-olds is around their natural ability to learn through play, and where our current curriculum allows for teachers to develop that with specific outcomes. The draft now drives and navigates teachers towards channeling the execution of skills at this much younger level. And so there is limited opportunity or ability or option for teachers to engage students in play and being able to drive and direct their own learning within those areas, and to foster the love and the joy and the just ability to get out there and interact and play and enjoy the movement for the value of that side of things. So we're are concerned about the structure that's being put in place that takes away from some of those opportunities. In terms of those further conceptual shifts, we're also really concerned around, as Fiona's kind of spoken about already, is around those bicultural foundations and the lack of mataranga Māori and acknowledgement of the role that plays where tikanga, where hauora, where te tiriti actually comes to life through meaningful, well thought out and positioned experiences for our students beyond just token opportunities, which is where it currently sits at the moment in terms of there are opportunities for students to engage in particular contexts like kapahaka to kind of tick that box. But in terms of foundational knowledge and structural formation with that, that whole mataranga Māori side of things is just void. And again, we're just deeply concerned about how that reflects teaching and learning and our society as a whole in Aotearoa. So, huge concerns there.
Okay, we look now at the phase teaching sequences, and I am mindful of trying to wrap my way through this, guys. I'm sorry, in some time, but we'll get there. Maybe we just pick up on there are obviously a few things there in the phase one concern around the development, how appropriate some of the these are in phase one, and I know that's a concern that was raised both in the early phase and also at phase 4, where the levelling seems to have been moved from what was essentially phase 5 before. That conversation that you've just been suggesting around, the sports being the core knowledging and this kind of skill performative nature of things, and that certainly resonates for me in terms of what's happened with the arts draft as well. Fiona, you were going to talk a little bit about this risk.
Yes.
This might be a moment to talk to that.
Yeah. So for us, across all the phases, really, in the draft, we're seeing a real emphasis on risk management and at quite inappropriate levels and levels that don't even belong down in phase 4, let alone down in these earlier phases. So we'd like to see in our submissions back to the ministry around keeping some safety knowledge in there, of course, because that's important in the outdoors, but really striking far more of a balance between knowledge that keeps ourselves safe, but also how we can engage with the natural environment, taking action and making a difference, and building connection with those places that are important to us. So rather than just this real high-level focus on risk management, a far more holistic look at all of outdoor education.
And the other thing you were asking around was just, I'm just noticing it again in that phase section, was about the kind of resourcing for some of the aspects.
Yes. So, for example, at the moment in the draft, there would be the requirement for all primary schools to teach map reading using compasses. And we don't think that's a realistic expectation of all primary schools across New Zealand to have a set of expensive compasses, or that it's at the right level for students to learn about using a compass. So there's resourcing issues like that we think need to be changed. And I know that phys ed is exactly the same around some of the sports equipment that would be required to actually deliver this current draft, and the expectations on schools is just too great.
Yeah, we just don't understand where some of the decisions have come from in terms of the reasons why they've identified those pieces of knowledge for those particular year levels. There doesn't seem to be any way of finding a justification for that, and we are challenged around the incoherence of that, the lack of progression, the lack of consistency across there, the lack of it actually matching to some of the ministry's own definitions around what their pieces of knowledge are. So, yeah, it's challenging across all those phases.
Okay, I am whisking away because we are 5, but I just wanted to highlight from our cross phase, and obviously people can look at this in more detail, that notion around nutrition. I thought that was quite interesting for me as a person looking at, the removal of talking about food with children at phase 1, but then we talk to them about carbohydrates and proteins and fats and things, which I thought was an interesting, way to approach it. And also, I suppose, again, as you were talking about the socio-cultural connection to food and how is it understood, not just in terms of the declarative kind of fact or the procedural fact, but how we interact with food and engage with food in the world, and its position and its context to the specificity of that. So, Marissa, I just wanted to bring this one back up, which is kind of connected to the resources, which is the time issue.
Yeah.
Time that's now being allocated for health education.
Yeah, we're really confused as to how it is going to be achievable for our teachers to make the teaching and learning opportunities available for ākonga. Currently, there is a 1 hour a week recommendation for health and physical education. So if we split that, that's half an hour each per week. If we split that across 5 days, we're talking about 6 minutes a day for our students to access learning in physical education. And what we know of the current draft at the moment, in year 1, there are 53 knowledge and practice outcomes for our teachers to make sure that students have access to in that time. By the time we get to year 9 and 10, they're looking at 60 and 66 outcomes. We currently sit with 15 achievement aims over 2 years of learning. So we're just not sure how that is even possibly achievable, and potentially the processes that may be put in place for teachers to do that, perhaps through textbooks or workbooks, and then deprofessionalize our teachers in that position to be able to manage what they're being asked to produce. And this is just one learning area on top of all of them that will be released at once. So significant concerns in that area.
And I think that goes back to as well that the applied nature of much of the, that it's that to and about movement that you require, that's essential to your learning areas, is often to the arts, If that was for logistical reasons confined, because it's going to take too much time to take them outside and get the equipment and all of those kind of aspects if you're going to try and get through such a high number of outcomes. Okay, so we are at 4:53, and Claire's keeping an eye on it. And I know there's all kinds of aspects of this. As I said, this is very much a whisk through. So these are some of the overall comments. And maybe if I just turn to either of you and we just have 1 minute to give us kind of your big takeaway that you would like people to think of with the consultation. And then I'll spend the last 5 minutes just going through the materials so people can find the documents they need and how to go about things. Fiona.
Fantastic. Thanks, Claire. So overall, great that outdoor education has a row in there under phys ed. It's better than it not being there at all. But I think there's a long way to go about getting the right knowledge in the right places. And we've made some recommendations on our website that Claire will point to, I'm sure. And we'd just really like to see people engage and make sure we're getting the right knowledge in the right places across the phases so that this curriculum can be implemented. We really need to give solid feedback around the time, as Marissa talked about. Outdoor education relies on being outside and being grounded in nature 6 minutes a day. When we're sharing with phys ed, that just can't practically happen. So we're desperately concerned about that as well.
Marissa.
I guess for us, the key piece is that our community participate in the submission process and that you look at the document and find the spaces that connect to your communities and your ākonga and the way it's going to affect them. So if you are teaching in a classroom that has diverse needs and you are looking at the outcomes that are going to be possible or impossible, that you feedback about what that's like for you. If Mataranga Māori is something that inherently lives in your practice, and by looking at the current draft that's not reflected there, speaking about that from your personal point of view and how that's going to affect you and your ability to do your job as a professional, that's where we want people coming from, is looking at what we know is good practice, what we want in rich learning outcomes that stand true to physical education as a learning area that looks at the value of movement in a holistic way. And at the end of the day, physical education and health is about helping to produce and form good humans. We want our young people to know themselves, to interact with others, and to see themselves as a part of our society and be able to contribute. And so we want a curriculum that reflects that and allows them to go through that process of learning about it. We're not here to produce the next high performance sport player. That's not our role in physical education. We want the good humans. So looking at the draft and reflecting about how that's going to be impacted for you is really important.
Very similar thinking around similarly. And it was like, we're not going to make concert pianists, or one's not going to be a Hollywood movie star, right? So okay, I'll just now whisk us through the guide. So I'm going back to sharing my screen. And I do want to acknowledge that there's obviously a lot of material we didn't get to in this very brief swing through. And I know lots of things around, there's lots of questions around the relationship sexual education part of the health curriculum that had a lot of controversy, and there's a lot to feed back in on there. And, we didn't have time and space, but I'm hopeful that this will give you the impetus to go and look at the whole document and make sure that you consider those aspects as well. So here on this site here, and I will put this link into the chat momentarily. If you go into here, you'll see this button here will take you to that snapshot draft that we just went through. This button here will take you to Taharangi and to the documents itself. I would recommend that if you go into this, you go to the file download section. It's a bit tricky to find, why I'm doing it for you. And then go all the way down here, you can access the entire document. They have broken it down into year levels, but I think it is valuable to look at the whole thing, because as we've talked about, the coherence and across, and the kind of what is lack of clear progression is really visible when you look at the thing going all the way across. So and considering that holistic purpose, not getting kind of too much into the, just drilling down into your level, but looking at the whole thing. And then this button here will take you to the survey document itself. It's a survey monkey. It's actually pretty intuitive and simple. I would recommend that you potentially, cut and paste your answers into a Word doc as well, just in case something goes astray while you're in the middle of a form. We've all been through that one. And also so that you have a good, you have a record of it for yourself. If you need it for future, or when the completed curriculum comes out and you want to go back to that. The other thing I would suggest is that you make these submissions individually, because they are going to count them individually. That doesn't mean you can't get together as a cohort, as a group of teachers or parents or whomever you are, community members, and talk through things, but maybe try and make those submissions individually so that they're all counted. This kind of just takes you through what they're asking you to look through. And as I said, at the bottom here, there's a couple of extra links. This is a little article here on in a response to the draft. And then this link here will take you to the Education Outdoor Consultation Guide that Fiona just mentioned before. I think the crucial element is, as I said, the consultation concludes in 10 days. So ideally, you can go through this right now and do it all right now, get it dusted off for the evening. But, the more that people can engage with that at whatever level you come at, from whatever context you come at, the better. So I will pop that. Let me do that now. I'm going to stop sharing that and come back into the Substack. I'm going to pop it in here so that you've got the link, and I will now karakia us out. Thank you very much, Fiona and Marissa. Kia tau ke tātou katoa, te araha, me te maratau, tihei Māori ora. Kia ora, thank you everybody, and good night. All of this will be loaded up to AEC and on the website very speedily so that you can all download at your leisure. Thank you everybody. Aki te.
Aki te.